Alright. Get the fucking beer out of here, that's for sure. Are we recording on there?
Mm-hmm.
Apologize, folks. I got sick.
I've never had anyone back out and throw up like that before.
I mean, you were just talking about 17-year-olds and weird shit, so.
It wasn't weird shit. We've been in this scene, dude. Like,
yeah.
The dude from Hollywood Undead had a thing for 17-year-olds. We later get told by one of our favorite bands at the time in the metalcore world that Chiodo's vocalist Craig Owens is into that, and that he got with one of their underage sisters. That something happened. We're like, fuck, like Chiodo's?
Yeah.
And so that's when it started. That there was always these underage girl jokes with scene bands.
Yeah.
I've been saying this shit forever.
Yeah.
So like the whole exposing them wasn't really shocking or new to me. I never wanted the podcast to fall into that, but I feel like we've been privy to it for so long.
And what's also gross is it wasn't surprising to us when we're 20, 21 and it's happening, because a lot of these guys are the same age. And let's be honest, like that kind of high school, couple years after, all that shit kind of blurs in together, right? It's real gross when now that we're 34 and we're seeing it. And so,
or the fact that, like what I said, like my biggest issue is manipulating young girls and preying on them, or if you have a platform and you're using your band, or like if I found out something about you that you were diddling little boys and you were using the podcast to like get your way into Wiggles concerts and find like, yeah, I'd be pretty fucking pissed about it, because it's like, not only did I know that person and he betrayed me, but it's like,
you abused it.
We fucking bought your CD. We bought into the hype. We bought into who we thought you were, and it sucks. And I made the mistake of thinking that people would want to know that the people you're supporting are shitty people.
In general, it doesn't just have to be the underage thing either. It can be, we see people get accused of allegations of like rape, people just being shitty people in general. Like, it's just a very
shitty, controlling, manipulative.
It sucks like, when you look behind
the veil. Can you believe that band didn't pay me? Like anything like that. But it's not something I ran and made a podcast to talk about.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I Hate the Scene would have been rebooted as a podcast in 2015 when I found out all that shit and could have ran to the bank with that. I mean, it's the same thing that when the Johnny Craig interview happened, like, I didn't release it. It could have been damning to Johnny, of all people.
Yeah.
But I was closer to his management, and I kind of owed them for all the shows they got me into, and in turn, they owed me. And needing, having someone like that owe you a thing or two kept me in this scene and kept me going to shows and covering artists. And that's why 80% of the artists we covered in that era are from that fucking agency.
And that's also to show how the inner workings work. Sometimes, we highlighted AP Magazine shutting down a couple of stories, and like, hey, sometimes in the industry things work the way that they work, and us thinking that the real world can handle that was obviously a mistake as well. What do you think? Obviously, the scene's kind of, you're putting a bow on that in terms of where you're going with it. If you were to maintain a career in covering music and or sports, what do you think that looks like?
Probably something I listen to naturally.
Whether it be something you create or if you want to like.
There have been some awesome artists I've found through the podcast, and having people market them to me or send a press release to get me to listen to a band. And they're good artists. They appeal to my liking, my style. I would jam them. But for the most part, it's a lot of like hip hop artists, maybe a few EDM artists I can zone out to. There's not many rock bands that would keep me going back. Like, I used to love Whitechapel 08, 09, 2010. And there just came a point when like their music changed, they evolved, and they're a really good band, but what they evolved into wasn't what I wanted. And even their older stuff, like being so brutal, talking about like killing chicks and shit like that, it doesn't appeal to me at 35 the way it did as a heartbroken 22-year-old or 23, and I think that shit's cool. I'm just kind of, I'm over it. I never had a scene phase and did my hair and makeup and all that shit.
Yeah.
But like, as far as a scene phase of listening to the music, I mean, that shit, God, I got so deep into the podcast that by the end of it, the end of Scene Radio, I was already jaded that I was kind of over the music.
Right.
And I've swayed back and forth. And if it weren't for like hip hop having a rough stretch, like through like
That's
the
true.
early 2010s.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about
Outside
Lil
the
Wayne
Nelly
anymore.
phase, yeah.
I'm over ASAP Rocky. Like, I don't care about that shit. So a lot of the rappers that I like started to come back. And there's a lot of new rap I like, and most of all, like Griselda, I'm obsessed with. I'm a fan of anything. It's that shit. I'd like to do something in the hip hop world. I just think that's a little more difficult because my ties to it are so old and long gone.
Do you think that there's a reason that you will stay attached, but maybe, I mean, because all those same things are going to be there. All the same ideas that you're going to be getting behind the veil perspectives, you're going to be seeing the real side of artists, you're going to be seeing the real side of events. Doesn't necessarily, I mean, that's something that transcends all scenes, not just the scene that we were popular in, right? But you're going to have that access if you continue to do music in general.
If I still had a podcast, I wouldn't like try to turn away from scene bands or news about that shit.
Okay.
I mean, the biggest problem we had is that those bands didn't churn in news the way that a super celebrity who would strike on like a TMZ,
right?
You're not able to talk about those bands in the same aspect as like super celebrities.
Which also goes to show like the actual passion behind it, rather than being in it for the clicks and the views. Because it is true, the scene that we're covering is it's not a very popular scene to be a part of or be.
It is and it isn't. It's like as much as I wanted, like I always thought the way it's supposed to be is your band comes out, your fans are young and they grow with you. Yeah. But in a lot of cases, a lot of these bands just appeal to a certain age group
because it's the first two albums.
A lot of it, like that's the fucking I Hate the Scene name. Yeah. It's like, oh, I like their old shit. Yeah. I only like the first album. Oh yeah, them Escape the Fate, yeah, but not the new Escape the Fate. Whatever the fuck it is, it was always some.
It's not taken serious. It's almost a not serious stage. It was right out of high school, the do-it-yourself phases, the indie labels, exactly. And then so at one point the music has to start being taken serious, and then all of a sudden they sell out, or they change their tune, or they fucking sign to a major, or some other excuse that we like to throw out as fickle fan bases. But in reality, that's what it is. The people that are in the bands right out of high school, the bands we were into, they grow up as adults, so they're going to start writing about adult shit and adult music. We do see this gross trend right now with people trying to fucking get nostalgic and come back with the original lineup and the original shit. And it's like, okay, cool. Are you going to have all the gross original shit you did when you were here in 2008 in the first place? Because that shit was gross too, bro. Like, why are you coming back? What are you coming back for?
A lot of them are cash grabs. Like,
and that's why a lot of the accusations are coming out.
There hasn't been a legit 10-year tour that's like...
Exactly.
A very big scale where you're like, oh yeah, that's cool, that's deserving. Like
not even family values or like the old
My
school
Chemical Romance had their whole shit fucked up because of the pandemic, like delaying their shit. But it's like, how big is it a Skylit Drive reunion? Yeah. You know, like if it's Escape the Fate with Ronnie, how big could that fucking be? You know, it's all niche. Like that would bother me with any music genre, no matter what it was I was listening to. I mean, I don't need my personal favorites to be a huge artist or be underground. I definitely at one point could have been that elitist on the internet that thought like I don't want other people to know my artist, and that's why you specifically listen to obscure shit. That's annoying. That's stupid. Like I don't care about that anymore. Like if I find more people that like Evidence, that'd be dope as shit. But I just don't find everything as cool as I did at that point.
How do you feel like you can continue a career in the journalism world with or without blending in like the real side of Matt, which we were talking about a bit ago when you were like, I'm funny, I can snap back, I don't mind, and for the sake of the stuff that we were talking about, we did have to come off a little bit more professional, maybe a little bit more PC.
Definitely don't make jokes about underage chicks getting fucked because people don't think that's funny when you like cover abuse and shit.
Exactly. So what part of you is going to, or are you going to try to blend that side of, because that's where I see a lot of successful things potentially coming from, because again, I've had conversations on record and off record with you about how you're just, man, there is people that would love to sit and listen to you talk shit and sit and love and to listen to you debate things and just give perspective on things, right? You would have to, I think, learn boundaries and learn to toe lines, but that's not to say you have to be completely censored or completely filtered, right? You can lean into the unfiltered, uncensored, underground approach to things that you do appreciate and you do like about the media side. But you can also, I think, flex your be nasty.
I've considered a couple things. I've thought about the rap career. I've considered
seriously,
like seriously,
okay.
like yeah,
bringing it back.
Like for me, More so than
Creatively,
like, yeah,
okay.
but I want to get famous and get signed to get rich and all that good shit. You know,
Yeah,
I gotta
you want
pay
fame,
it.
clearly.
Yeah.
Matt's
I
going for
want
fame.
fucking money over fame. I'm a simple man. Like,
That's weird because your personality screams look at me.
because I'm a whore for the content. Like, if we can get good content out of it, or if I can get attention for it to bring it to the brand, then fine. Like, someone told me that this like last week. Like, I said, just say you don't understand marketing and move on. And they're like, well, how is talking shit good marketing? And I said, your bitch ass is here, aren't you? You've been arguing for 12 tweets now, aren't you? And like, where we couldn't get the devotion of someone being dedicated enough to get their whole friend group or something, or a whole high school to listen to us and really capture that demographic of these stupid fucking bands that only appeal to teenagers. Like, maybe we can just get them to talk about us and hate us enough. Because I'm good at that. I'm good at getting people to hate me and get mad at the shit I say. And when people get mad at the things I say, or I realize how like awful the people were that were like perpetrating these lies about me, like the friend group that it is, it's like the ugliest people in high school that hate everyone that's attractive.
Yeah.
Like, their whole timeline is them talking about someone else.
Yeah.
And I'm self-aware enough that I think, is that me? Did I do that? Was my timeline like that? And there were times that I made I Hate the Scene's Twitter like that, going after Ronnie Radke, going after like an abusive dude like Bradley Wallen, or whatever it may be.
Here you go. What causes people to be so obsessed or involved with other people's lives, do you think?
Like that? Like, those people, they have nothing going on.
To the extent of, I'll say we've been pretty fanatical in the past. So just in general.
I will find it as a pastime to argue
general.
with you on Facebook. My thing right now is I love finding the racist NASCAR fans. I want to rid the sport of racist fans, because the sport has a viewership issue, has money issues, and I want to get rid of all the racists. So I always praise Bubba Wallace, and then someone comes after me. You can say the simplest shit. He's a great, talented driver, and someone's going to disagree. It's like, how are you going to say he's not talented when he just had like 3 straight second place finishes? He has 1 career win. And you're going to say he's not talented. It's just any racist will say anything but the fact that they're racist. It's a distraction. It's bullshit. I like arguing like that. I don't think I'm well for it. Like, there's times when I'm like, I've been banned from Facebook more than anyone else I know. Like, I got to put the shit down.
You're for sure in that category of someone has to say give you one little warning.
I recently got something
banned.
Reported because all I did was tag Cal. I tagged my British friend.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You're savage. You okay?
Bad blow.
Oh.
Go ahead. Did I answer that?
You did. Well, I mean, to a degree, you didn't answer why you think people are that way. You answered why you are, I think.
Yeah, so I find that fun, and I think in another life I might have been a lawyer, because I'm good at arguing. I like backing people into that corner. Maybe that's because people used to back me into that corner, and I didn't know how to get out. Right.
You brought Trip. People saw that. You brought up that in these people's timelines, it's all about other people, and then you said, "I wonder if I did that." So I think to a degree in the past you have, as any fan of things is going to. Why do you think people obsess? What causes people to obsess so hard it becomes their identity in their timeline on Twitter, or their identity in their timeline in their real life?
We're from a different era.
Oh, bro, but what about the yes heads? What about the fucking deadheads? And what about the fucking guys that are into Yes and Rush? And
think about how old you were when you got exposed to the
When I went to a Rush concert and got high with my dad, I was 12.
Neil Peart is the best drummer. I went to Matchbox 20 when I was in 3rd grade.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah, I don't like to admit that. But think about how old you were when you got the internet.
Oh, that was good.
I was in 5th or 6th grade.
When you got the internet?
Yeah.
Like at your house?
Yeah. Like AOL 2.5 was in my home, quickly updated to 3.0 for a while, then 4, then 5, and so on. And then eventually MSN and shit. But like,
yeah, I was in the 8th grade. Right before going into freshman year. I got it like right before I graduated from 8th grade or whatever.
That we got introduced to the internet, and we had already been a generation of kids that played outside and had limited options. Like, do you want to play video games? Do you want to play with Legos? Do you want to play with action figures of some sort? Like, what did you do as a kid?
We didn't really have limited options. We had unlimited options.
I mean, but that's what are you gonna do? You're gonna play Magic the Gathering. You're gonna do that shit. The internet wasn't providing the mass array of options of things to do in your pastime as a kid. So it's introduced to us, and it's primitive. And by the time that it's like full blown crazy tablets are going, we're in college, we're doing other shit, we're utilizing the internet for different things. You know, it's great that I can play online games and download shit. I love it. But I'm saying there's an entire generation of kids
that only know the internet,
that were born into this world and the internet had already reached a certain level. And they have only known, like, think about this, Brian. If you wanted to change something on a computer, most of the time you would right click it. And now, if you want to do that on a tablet, you just click and hold it. There's a whole generation of kids who are not going to know, like, right clicking was a thing. That's going to no fucking Windows going to go out the window. Everything's going to turn to tablets. It's going to be like that cartoon reboot, and everything's going to be a big like 3D screen. Like they know how to change shit because of that, and the Apple and the iPhone and shit. So I think they grow up on the internet in a different capacity than we do, and they create an entire social life and persona, and their TV they watch is free through YouTube or
their
whatever
identity is
service.
very tied to
everything they do is online. They are nothing.
Older people that are also very identity driven in terms of like sports and politics.
It could be fucking anybody. But the only examples that I've seen where it blew my mind is the short time I lived in North Carolina, and I seen kids like living in the trailer. They love seeing bands. They've never been to a show because they're in an area where the closest show is like 3 hours away.
Right.
They're poor as fucks. They're not going to get out there. Their internet sucks, but they live on the shit. And like they have seen hair, but it's literally just to take pictures and post online. Right. They're not going anywhere. They don't have any options to go anywhere. And for a lot of people, it may be like the lack of a social life, that they don't have anything to do off the internet, so everything is online. Like, there's a lot of things I've done that were ugly, but you know how stupid I felt when I'm in an argument with Ronnie Radke and I'm with my girl and my kids at fucking SeaWorld, and I'm like, I'm going to get in trouble for being on my phone, but I'm also arguing with a vocalist I don't even fucking like, and I'm at SeaWorld. I should be, like, clubbing baby seals with the kids or something. Like, I should be, like shoving a straw through a turtle's nose or, like, beating an orca down when it's pregnant. You know, whatever SeaWorld attraction has that month. Instead, I'm arguing with the mediocre-ass vocalist, and that's when I feel really stupid. But I still don't think that I'm the person lacking the life. Like, I log off Twitter. It ends for me. Yeah, I don't go log on to the Matt Musselwhite Twitter and then go post everything I did that day. I don't talk about my family.
Your storefront of Twitter is that you're engaging and you had a brand to follow.
It's music. I'll talk music and sports. You're not going to get anything about my personal life.
It's not all sharing one artist. It's all sharing one thing.
This is the only picture you're getting of my house. Like, you're not getting the rest of it. Like, I like privacy. I like that shit.
For the sake of, now I know I kind of drew up, hey, what about leaning into like your true self in terms of content? I do think that that's doable, and I think people are getting a glimpse of that right now, and I think you are a character of sorts, right? But I mean that in the sense that...
You think I'm a fraud?
I don't think you're a fraud. Yeah. Are you projecting?
No, because if you were, we'd have a fucking problem.
Oh my god. Anyways... you guys don't know this, but we actually cut the camera so I could whoop Matt's ass for talking about fucking...
Oh, yeah, no, I thought it was because you were throwing up because you're a fucking soy boy, little beta bitch boy.
I was throwing up. I did throw up. Hence why my beer is now over there, guys.
Yeah.
But you know that because I probably prefaced it at the beginning of this episode. Do you ever think you need to take yourself more serious? And I mean that no... I was going to segue into that, but... I mean, think you could lean into the assholeness. You could lean into this, Matt.
Right? I could be most hated Matt Musselwhite on Twitter and go with that persona. I don't personally want to. I don't aspire to be hated. And I don't aspire to be like any sort of social media icon or Twitter or influencer.
Not that you do, but you are naturally loud. Look at me. I know what's up. You are. Don't say that you're not.
I'm not. I'm just like...
In a way, no. In a sense of that's what you would lean into in this world. You're not going to next week be on fucking Channel 3 News in a suit and a tie being that character because to you that wouldn't be fun or enthralling or motivating, right? So do you think maybe in order to do something along the lines of media and journalism like you plan on doing with your career, that it may take a shift to being more serious in order for it to pan out? Or do you think that maybe, hey, I can lean into who I am in the real world and as a character in terms of I can set a boundary and make it work? Like, at what point are you playing with, hey, I need to be more serious for my career to work out how I want it to, or I'm gonna take what I got and make it more serious? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I think there's always room for improvement as far as like, can I take myself more serious or be more serious? And I definitely, like I said,
for two camera
shut the
angles.
fuck up. I log off of Twitter and I can go be serious and work my job, be with the kids, whatever. I can be serious. I can flip that switch the same way as when I worked in radio and I couldn't swear on air.
Sure.
And it's like I swear a lot, so I got to be careful of that. Like if we ran a podcast that didn't do that, I think I'd still be okay, and I wouldn't say shit. But I can flip that switch. I think I can always be more serious. There's been times when I've looked at like the Twitter stuff and think, oh, did so and so see this? I kind of look stupid. Like I wish I hadn't said that. Or like if I want to use this as a platform to jump off to go to like satellite radio or something, do I want this like reputation? And
that's what I mean. Like
I didn't like the reputation the podcast had at the end when we decided to end it
this last year,
because they thought that we were just out to cancel bands. When you have an ironic name like I Hate the Scene, it's like, oh well, we did this to ourselves. Like,
yeah, that's fair. That's
we did these exposés and we did these like the speaking up on shit where I felt obligated to. I did, like, I knew shit. I was privy to shit. Like the stuff that introduced us, like I got harassed by our subject. Like I got knee deep in it unintentionally, and a lot of shit fell on our doorstep. And the obligation's always been there. Like when news broke of another band, I felt I had to provide the context and tell the things that I had seen. And a lot of that came back to bite me in the ass. I have paid dearly for all the truth that I've said on that podcast, from losing potential guests of bands that I used to respect, from losing friends that I used to respect, from losing potential viewers that could have meant something or anywhere closer to monetization. Like, yeah, the people don't like when you tell the truth on them, and people don't like when you talk about their favorite band. I got my ass kicked over that.
Can you lean into maybe the unapologetic nature of it all for the sake of knowing that does work? Because that did get attention, right?
At what cost?
That's what I'm saying. Like, do you lean into the unapologetic nature, or
this is the cost?
All right, I wasn't intending to get that real. I meant for like the sake of your career. God damn it! I meant for the sake of Jesus Christ. I meant for the sake of
I think by the
at what point is it unapologetic, or hey, maybe I do get more serious?
I mean, I could get more serious as fuck and do a completely different podcast, and I don't think it would matter because I already broke like a band code. I already went and told the truth on a bunch of shit I'd seen on tour that I thought was vile.
Dude, I didn't even think about that.
Code. Like look, I'm not going to say who it is, but we had a friend. He was in a real band like that, and because of the shit I said on the podcast, like he was offended by it because he's friends with that person, and I understand that. But it's also too, it's like, let's not sit here and defend behavior or ignore it for the sake of guest list or anything like that.
Because you definitely have not done that.
No, because I didn't go chasing clout by knowing shit on these bands or
that genuinely.
Like, yeah, literally, it cost me. It cost us. Like, I would sit there and look at the Twitter and the followers would drop. They don't want to know that shit. So yeah, that's my fuck up.
I didn't mean to highlight like a fuck up. I just meant like.
No, you did though. Fuck you.
No, I didn't. What I meant for that to the route for that to go is like you do have a business savvy. You do pay attention to the followers, right? But what is that also? That's also like, are you paying attention to the followers? No. Are you paying attention to the followers because you know that the followers equals success? Or are you paying attention to the followers because you know that that's what's making it?
I have never looked at followers as like more friends, more popularity, more fame. I have always looked at those numbers are going to equal a paycheck eventually.
Okay.
But it's not a direct result. The entertainment industry is the strangest place to make money because it's like you create an art and a bunch of other people make money off your art and you get the smallest chunk. Or it's so weird in like what we do because there's no direct career path for it and you're fringe on all this shit.
And you could segue into, I mean, you do have a career trajectory in other realms, right? But if you did want to lean into the media side of things, you could segue into like post production on a radio station or production on a radio station, not even necessarily being
Or if
a
Vice wants to like
personality.
investigate bands and do Dark Side of the Scene.
That's where I'm trying to paint this picture. There's a Matt that needs to be like Matt doesn't be successful in the media world editing.
I meant to say this
Matt's
earlier.
not successful in the media world behind the camera. Matt's successful in the media world on camera, voicing his opinions, being heard, being listened to. And that's when I'm trying to get at, hey, do you take a serious tone and really hone in on being just a straight-laced professional? Or do you lean into the unapologetic nature, which has worked for you in the past? You've got to be on screen, bro. You got to be on screen. You're right. You have to be on screen.
There's no reason
that
it can't be both to a sense because of like who I am by nature. That I'm not like, I don't try to buck this system, but when you eventually give me a rule that's like horse shit, it's really, really fucking hard to not remind you that it's horse shit. You know, so
and you don't hold back.
No, I think I would lean into something more serious just because I don't aspire to do any of the shit that I've been doing. I don't want to dox any more people. I don't want to be in arguments with people. I don't want arguments to get to the point where I have to fucking dox you to get you to shut up so your 5 fucking parody accounts go away. Like, for a shitty fucking podcast with no viewers, we sure had a lot of fucking haters, man. Like that's a lot of attention and shit paid to. Like, how is there 2 different accounts of, like, Ronnie Loves Matt that's messaging me? Like, you can't do that and claim to be the victim in the same aspect. All that shit was crazy. But if I was to do something else, it would have to be serious because I don't want it to be like that was. And there's a lot of people that said, you can't stop speaking up because the few support that we got outside of our friends thinking like, oh, that band interview was cool. We had a lot of women come and message us and thank us for the episodes that we did on speaking up about bands that are abusive. Or like, I mean, we did an episode that was like a checklist of abusive bands to watch out for. And there were a lot of people, survivors, that were thankful that we were like courageous enough to speak up on that shit. It's not
like we were just making bands up either. These are bands that were fucking several allegations and on their way out.
I post this, there's all the news stories like are sourced and all that shit. Like it's real stuff that we didn't make up. That shit's out there. And it sucks because it ruined the music scene. It ruined a bunch of favorite bands. I don't think Warped Tour could exist today if it was still going because as many of those bands that are on there, they're going to get canceled. But there was a lot of people that were thankful that we did shit like that and said, you can't stop speaking up about it because no one else will.
Yeah.
Like, I got flamed for it when I said State of the Scene is not equipped to talk about this stuff. They've proven that they're not, you know, and they thought it was a pick me.
Yeah.
Everything I do on social media is a pick me.
Yeah.
That's the point of there even being a Twitter account is to pick me over everyone else. Listen to my shit. But we're way better equipped to speak about that. I think we did. Every time we did that, we did it professionally. And we shined a light where people strayed away from, including AP Magazine.
That's something
and I
to
think
be said, too.
That shit, that means something to me. So, like, if all the other shit's a joke, everything got like, those episodes definitely meant the most because what, like, personally, like, we sacrificed in the name and the reputation and, like, the different guests that didn't want to come on because they're like, oh, well, you talked about so-and-so.
Also, something somebody said about us was, oh, iHateTheScene decided they wanted to be serious all of a sudden. And I don't necessarily want to tie it to the serious question, but it does suck when we did initially come out and say, have fun interviews. We did have fun interviews. We had a lot of fun guests on there, a lot of good times, a lot of laughs. We were very, like, nonchalant, but we always had a very professional and serious approach, and you've highlighted that, and that I think goes back to like your business-centric history, right? And like, yeah, you always showed up on time, you always showed up ready to go. 2 years nonstop, mind you, and that was a big reason why I was like, hey man, take a little bit of a break. 2+ years.
I didn't want to stop.
2+ years every Friday of never missing a show. It's a big deal. You probably weren't paying attention to it because again, it's your thing. You're just doing you. But the entire time we were professional and we were serious about it, we just decided to start talking about some serious topics, right? Where like a lot of the interviews and shit that we did, they were serious when it was geared towards the band. But then if it was a solo episode or an episode where it was just you, me, and Jordan, or you and me busting balls and going over news topics, it was a lot of laughs. It was a lot of good times and poking fun. But for us to also sit there and highlight accusations and highlight serious things that were going on, the death of Trevor from Black Dahlia murder being one of them, people all of a sudden thought that we were changing or coming out of left field with a bunch of shit. And in reality, I think, for a bit of us, we kind of got tired of the scene for a bit. We got tired of like where it was headed and what it was going. And I remember a couple times of us scratching our heads going, are we really just going to like only cover this for a while? Are we only going to like stay focused
I think that's an
to this?
unfair criticism, because while we had a fun show and like one of the rules like behind the scene was make sure the guest has a fun time.
Correct.
Like, we're online.
Yeah.
You can't just hand them a beer and be a buddy with them.
Well, that's what I mean. We did.
You got to be friends. But if you look at what we did on I Hate the Scene, 5 episodes in was the first time we ever mentioned bands abusing their fans. It was Blood on the Dance Floor.
Well, that's my point.
The 9th episode on our show was the Black Lives Matter episode, when all of like Minnesota was happening. George Floyd just happened.
That's my point.
So to say that we flipped and got serious, we had been serious from the get-go. We're just fun-loving dudes that like know how to make an entertaining podcast.
Exactly, and people raked us for the sake like that's the fickle fan base in of itself. Like, you're missing the point. We were serious. You just now all of a sudden want to pay attention to the seriousness because it fucks with your favorite band, or it ruffles your identity because your identity is tied to this favorite band.
You want to know something crazy? That's always intentionally been the formula for the podcast, and probably anything I do.
What?
Because the podcast that I'm obsessed with and listen to the most, what they do that no one catches on until years after listening, is they give you what you want. They give you the comedy, they give you the funny, they give you the controversy, but they also slip in a little bit of, is it politics? Is it a political agenda? Is it a little bit
of the humor,
of the seriousness?
They're subtle,
and I always try to push something like
Juices
the abuse with the band.
What are you talking about?
I'm not. It's not even Jesus and Marrow.
What are you talking
about? The Levitard show.
Oh.
Levitard is like that.
Levitard is way more
funny,
serious. Yep.
It's prank calls.
Yep.
It's Stu Gatz talking about Michael Jordan's the best basketball player of all time.
But they've been kicked off for being serious on topics.
Uh-huh.
They've been kicked off for being serious and asking serious questions during interviews.
Yep.
That's true.
And so if you look at the people I worship in this business, you'll realize where a lot of the inspiration and shit comes from. It's like, they give you the funny and you pay attention, and then you're sucked in because you know the next word's going to be good, and it's like, hey, by the way, there's abuse in the scene, this band did this and it's awful and we think it's fucked up, and then they hear it and it's like, oh shit. I mean, what's it going to look like if the podcast legitimately was every episode of us trying to, as they put it, cancel a band? If we're just speaking on all the bad shit every episode, like, we wouldn't have made it to 124, because I wouldn't have fucking wanted to do that. That wouldn't have been fun. It was way more fun to find a random band from Calgary like Trench and talk to them about cold weather influenced metal, and like, dude, we asked some good ass questions to bands that were getting asked the same ass questions.
Facts.
And like, when the show's over, the shit I'm most proud of is speaking up on abuse. Like, the interviews we did, I know are unique. How many times did we log off and someone said, that was the best interview we've done? Yeah. We've done a bunch of these, and they're asked the same shit. Yeah. So, fuck with me. We're not the same shit. Different level.
That's what I want to get. I want
big
to get thinking.
Balls hanging.
I want to get that going. So, it's clear that you're probably not done in terms of, like, creating content, obviously. Whether or not it's scene related, who knows? I don't necessarily think that fucking matters. What I think does matter is that you do lean into that side of things, the continued approach of being a professional, continued approach of being serious, but also at the same time, I think you do need to more so lean into this character. And I say character, I mean, like, you're just unapologetic attitude, right?
My gimmick?
Not even a gimmick, bro, because this isn't a gimmick, dude. This is you.
What if I make a baby face turn?
That's what
turn into, like,
it's like.
More, drop songs like that.
That's my point. That's my point. Like, his fucking chick will be here, and his kids. He's in front of the. I was gonna ask you, but I know we got time crunch here. How does interim fatherhood, like, made you develop as a person? Because throughout the entire 15 plus years I've known you or whatnot, you have always had this kind of similar. Great way of saying it. Yes, you've had a general disdain.
I'm an only child, I don't have any cousins near my age. I didn't grow up having to babysit.
That's cool.
I don't have any like you didn't. Your little sister, like we
Yeah.
made fun of her. She was old enough. She wasn't like a baby.
Yeah.
I'm not around kids.
Yeah.
I don't do kids, and
But
because
you're
of
good
that,
at it.
but hold on. But because of that, it's unfair if I was to ever get involved with someone who had kids. And so for years and years and years, there was a red flag I avoided. And
how the turntables, because you got two of them now.
And in the years, like you said, can you get more serious? I've got more serious over the years. Like,
it blows my mind.
You didn't see me like when I was in North Carolina and it was like real bad. I was sad off and like I fucked off my money so fucking bad from California to NC. I fucked all my money off. And then living the short time I was in Austin, I fucked all my money off. I was just not responsible with any of it, just doing dumb shit and then being sad and trying to live for the moment and spending even more. And I corrected all of that. I got all my finances straight years ago.
Yeah, you have.
Like, fixed all of that. Because you're not going to do anything until you fix your money and you're not fucking stupid with it. Because any job you have, no matter how good it is, you're still going to spend stupidly. The kids, I just started trying things differently. I started trying to approach things differently. I was never a morning person. I'm better in the mornings now. I have
8 a.m. text from that.
Yeah, I wake up ready to do shit, kind of in a chipper mood. I think the reggae bands for that. Something along the lines of having a tour, wake up early all the time, and then be in a better vibe of like reggae. Okay. I think that did something to make me a better morning person, and coffee. But I dated a chick that had kids, and I fell in love with the kids, and I consider myself a stepfather, and I love taking them to SeaWorld, and I love going out, going to Olive Garden and having them yell and have to leave early. I've seen.
He's not serious about the Olive Garden. He is serious about them yelling and leaving early.
I don't know if it was Olive Garden. It was definitely a burger spot or somewhere else too. But just going to the beach with them, that shit's fun because they're innocent and fun and they don't know anything, and I could show them race cars and like
cool.
not the violent fucked up shit in this world or war in Ukraine or your favorite band's abusive. Like, they're children. Children are the purest thing in the world. Not really, because I still fucking hate kids. I don't like your kids. I don't like anyone else's kids. I just like mine. Like these ones.
See, I'm opposite. I don't want kids, right? But I'm like, oh yeah, because I can give them back. No, your kid's great. Give them back.
Well, they eventually go to bed. And then I can play Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, but then you got to worry about them sleeping.
No, when they go to bed, I have to wait for my chick to go to bed. Then I have to sneak out of bed.
It's almost like you're a child and you have like time. Like,
I finally have all the fucking games,
all the cool things. Your own house. You have your own house,
and I still can't fucking play them.
Your own money. You're almost like a fucking adult, and yet you still have a bedtime. You still got responsibilities and chores and fucking government.
I have a natural bedtime. I really I used to definitely drink a lot of Mountain Dew and stay up late and play StarCraft. Oh, man. And that's long gone. I can't do that.
Bro, you know what probably single-handed...
I don't drink soda either. As fat as I am, I don't drink soda.
A vivid memory that definitely helped ruin my teen and childhood years, for sure, involves you. And it was when Xbox Live first came out and we played Crimson Sky. Or whatever it was called.
We played Counter-Strike and Crimson Sky all fucking night. All night.
Did not sleep.
We didn't go to bed.
Did not sleep. Played fucking Counter-Strike. And dude, that's another thing that I think about too is like, I think about kids coming up now, and you're right. They are just completely developed in the internet and completely involved in that and this weird identity thing everybody goes through. Communications falling to shit. We've talked about that. But also, as we kind of wrap this up, we're in an age where we're so connected, and that was, I think, the part of it. But what also started with that? The disconnect, the talking shit, the roasting people online, the fucking, oh, what pussy? Like, how bad was fucking cyberbullying for so long? And like,
oh, dude, I felt it. I was like, dude, I'm getting cyberbullied.
Bro, swatting was a real thing. People used to get swatted all the time. Can you believe people still
dox people? Yeah, that's fucked up.
I know. That's what I'm saying. And so...
people want me to apologize for doxing.
You didn't even dox people. I want it to be known. I want it to be known. Literally just graduated with my communications degree. We have a fucking media law and ethics book at our fucking computer side constantly. Matt did not dox anybody. Matt technically did not dox anybody. And so legally did not dox
No,
anyone.
no
That's not what
house
doxing is. Everybody
No
that's
house
freaking
number,
out,
just the
everybody
street.
that's out here screaming to their fucking top of their lungs.
But the
There's
thing
no
is, like,
doxing.
why I felt motivated to do that is I personally can't stand when this microphone is abused, or when you're using this screen, this internet as your safety net. You can't just say things online that you don't answer for in real life. I have never operated that way, and look. You want to say we suck? You want to say I don't have a following? I have a bigger following than the fucking Twitter accounts that mouth off to us.
Yeah.
And I've never abused it in that sense.
True.
I've never come on here and perpetrated a lie about someone and tried to get them to follow that. That would be I couldn't live with myself with that. And so that's why I'm like, I don't like underhanded tactics being used against us, because I wouldn't stoop to those levels. And that shit made me go batshit crazy.
Your fraud comment earlier, I understand where that comes from now, because that was somebody, they did say, that was a comment, we got a fraud. And like, that irked us for a bit, because we're not. We understand the frauds. The frauds are these weird accounts that come in with no reputation or no followers. The frauds are a lot of the content creators and people that we call out on the show coming in with their half-assed shows and a lot of their failed attempts at trying to either become viral or gain recognition just because of a guest. Hey, there were times where we fucking did several shows by ourselves because getting guests was fucking hard. And like, again, pointing back to Matt's career,
or life gets in the way and I don't get to book anything that week.
Yeah.
And so it's Friday, an hour before the show, and I'm like, what do we talk about? And I think there's a lot of podcasts that exist in the same realm of like talking about music and interviewing bands that would not be able to cope and record and do an episode. And that's where, like, I didn't want to end the streak. I felt pride on that streak of endless episodes because nobody else could keep up. No one else had as many episodes as us. And no one could keep going, like, week to week. Where I think there was a stretch where we had like 17 weeks straight with a guest.
Yeah.
And we're bringing you like live episodes every single time. And
interviews where these guests have to coordinate. And like,
I was like, dude, we should just like, I'll just like operate on a different channel. I'll just do shit on Instagram Live so I keep the episodes going. You're like, no, just get the fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted there to be a streak. I thought it meant something, and it really doesn't. I'm just tired too.
I mean, and I don't like that you brought up that we're waiting until Friday to come up with news, because that wasn't the case. We would feel stressed when we didn't have a guest necessarily to fill time.
I meant for my notes, again, like just coming up with what I'm going to say on the show. Like, I didn't have any time that week, and I'm doing it an hour before.
Well, true also to that, but like we were filling an hour at least every single time, right? And so when we get on there and we don't have an hour with a guest and questions prepared and them to banter with, again, our scene wasn't very news oriented. We didn't get stuff on a daily, even sometimes weekly basis where it was hot topics and shit to talk about. And so that just kind of paints the picture of like, for it being the fraud comment, there's so little fraud there.
I never saw that. I would have fucking shot that person.
Well,
so
I mean,
I would have for sure doxed the shit out of
But I mean,
them.
you said a second ago, you called me a fraud, and I'm like, oh, are you projecting? Because that's where I was coming from with the, I mean, no, we did get a comment.
Haven't you learned about me? We've been going for like 2 hours. You haven't learned I'm a dick yet.
We have, 153. Dude, I'm fucking, this turned out even better than I thought, especially with the impromptu disaster in the house, because I think that's literally like our life in a nutshell.
What didn't I answer? What's not crossed off?
I crossed everything. I asked what you wanted to do in the future. I think I kind of segued that with like, hey, where do you see your career going? What do you plan on doing, leaning into? But I mean, you know,
I don't know. I really, now that it's over and I'm off.
Do you ever see yourself not behind a microphone or in front of a camera or not in the public eye to some degree? You kind of do have a public image.
because there was a time I was thinking, well, what if I just like found some young college kids that'll go and talk and say all this shit, and I can just write for them like Saturday Night Live, and I'll just be the guy pressing all the buttons back here. Because wouldn't it be funny if I fired off the sounds for them while they were like, when you read that eulogy of that guy and I fired off the fatality. See,
that's my point.
Okay. I could like set people up like that.
Do you ever see yourself not needing to be heard or not needing your zings to be listened to?
No. Someone's got to hear my jokes. I'm still going to call you in like 40
Always
years.
Always going to be
like,
attention seeking. Yes.
Bryan.
Okay. Perfect. That's okay. No. Then clearly, the world is going to also have to hear you, Matt. That's my point. If I've got to hear you for the rest of my life, the world's got to hear you for the rest of your life. So.
And spell my name right.
Oh, is it Ellie? WHITE?
No, it's EL. I'm
That's what I
talking
did.
to everyone on the fucking
Oh,
internet
yeah.
right now.
Yeah, it's spelt like muscle.
Like, if you're going to hate me, it's like the seashell and the color. Get it fucking
It's
right.
spelt like muscle.
Yeah, that's my Twitter account.
Matt, where can they find you on social media so they can listen to you and all your great ideas that you have?
You can't find me at iHateTheScene for sure. And I just changed my personal Twitter account, so
you can find this episode though, and all of our 124 previous episodes that we did at iHateTheScene.com, which will be live,
and on iTunes, Apple Music,
which will be live,
Spotify, YouTube.
We're not giving it a date, but it will be live for a while. You can go there to definitely like hang out with the ghosts. And
when I'm at the end of a bottle and a shotgun, I'm going to deactivate everything so the whole world forgets about me.
Are you giving out the personal stuff just for people?
Yeah, my personal Twitter is @Musselwhite Matt. Spell it right, you'll figure it out.
And then Instagram.
And if you want to play Grand Theft Auto or NBA or the new one that I'm going to pre-order, then get on Xbox. It's IC hyphy, like your eye, and you can see. EYE.
Yeah, I'll put it all in the fucking preface. We'll get that. You guys will figure out why I threw up in the preface. He's got to go get groceries. CommonChaos.net for all your guys' needs. It was a great time, Matt. Appreciate you.